But Lucinda was out there with her guitar, alone. And the way she sang, and really then weren't many original songs, but the songs she sang gave me a hope of someday being open and brave enough to do things in public. I wasn't then. I wasn't for another 40 years really. But she gave me a vision at that point in my life that kind of saved me. It showed me something, how things could be different. And I remember watching her one afternoon, and I was kind of a shy little guy. I think I weighed 110. But I was kind of in love with her, I'll admit it. And I'd never really had a girlfriend, even though I was like 22 years old or something. It was pathetic. But I didn't have the guts to do anything to go up and ask her name. We'd started a newspaper in Austin called the Austin Sun. It was kind of like a counterculture newspaper. And I was the music writer. So I asked her name, and I wanted to write about her. I didn't tell her that. I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Lucinda." I said, "I'm Bill." So I went back to my office and had this typewriter that didn't work. But I wrote a little story about Lucinda and realized I did not know her last name. I don't think it had ever been in print anywhere. This is like 1974. She was from Louisiana, but she, that's Lake Charles is Texas adjacent, so I kind of figured she was a Texan. And of course she was an Aquarius, naturally. I found that out. But I wrote a story about her, and then the headline, the editor said, "Well, Bill, what's the headline? I mean, what are you going to call it?" And I go, "How about Lucinda the folk singer?" So the first story I ever wrote in my life was about Lucinda the folk singer, and I was such an amateur, I did not have the last name. But we kind of got. She never mentioned that, but she had told me that day when I spoke to her. I said, "Well, where are you playing?" And she said, "Well, none of these bars around here would hire me." And there was really a dump where my little band was playing called The Hole in the Wall. And my God, I mean, like everybody could play there. You'd walk in there some days and Townes Van Zandt would be at the bar and he'd pull out a handful of pills in different colors and goes like, "What's your favorite color?" I'll give you the pills. And I'll never forget there was a Flats beer truck that Townes would wait for them to bring in the kegs. And he'd go out there and steal a case off the back of the truck and then go back behind the bar, the club, and drink it all day. And they would not hire Lucinda Williams. They had a woman singing on Sunday nights, and I think they had told her, "Well, we have a woman. Why do we need two?" And that woman was Nancy Griffin. She sang there every Sunday night. She was just getting started. But the Hole in the Wall was the kind of place, I remember there were two regulars called Big Boy and Wild Bill at the bar. And I remember one Sunday night, Big Boy, at the bar, your back was to the stage, and shouted out at Nancy, "Hey, could you keep it quiet up there? We're trying to have a conversation over here." And I thought, like, this is no place for Lucinda Williams to play. But she did get a gig there, and she started playing. And she really started developing a bit of a following in Austin. I mean, we were such a hippie town that nobody knew anything but what we wanted to do that night. And then the next thing I knew, I think I read in some other paper, that at the end of the 70s, she had somehow recorded 2 albums over those 2 years for Folkways, which was owned by the Smithsonian, which, my God, I mean, that's the biggest thing in the universe for history. And I just thought, like, look at her go, man. I was so proud of her. I bought those records. I played them constantly. And what they gave me was a sense that you can do anything you want. Once again, she showed me that. She went out and got a record deal. I think she cut the first one at Malaco Records in Jackson, Mississippi, which was a stone cold blues place. I mean, it was bluesy as it gets. And she had gone in there and made this incredible record. And she was kind of on her way, I thought. If you have 2 records, you're doing something right. So I moved out to LA, and I think Lucinda, in 1980, I got a job in another newspaper there, and she came out and started living there. And we'd bump into each other. She was trying to do gigs and stuff. And I told her, I said, "Lucinda, we have to do a great show together. Let me try to promote a show on you." And so by then I was working at a place a little more upscale in the Hole in the Wall called Club Lingerie. which was Sunset Boulevard, right? That's the big time. And so I had this great idea. I said, let's do a show called Millions of Williams. And so I got Victoria Williams, I got the Williams brothers, Andy Williams' nephews. I had an alcoholic friend named Marvin Williams, and he agreed to be the MC for no money. And I hired one of the greatest songwriters I've ever known in my life, dead now, a guy named Jerry Williams, this wild man from Texas. And so I had me 4 Williams. Of course, the day before the show, Jerry called me up and said, Bill, I need a 13-piece band or I can't do your gig. And I said, well, you got $500, Jerry, can you hire for that? No, you're off the gig. But that let Lucinda be the headliner that night. And Millions of Williams, it just rang everybody's bell in LA. And I think by then she had a real manager trying to get her a real record deal past Smithsonian. Of course, she drove him into becoming a lawyer, wonderful man named David Hirschland. But the next thing you know, near the end of that decade, the 80s, 10 years after the Folkways records, she made a record for Rough Trade that totally blew everybody. I mean, I really think that was when the world, when Rough Trade was an English-based label, realized that there was, let's put it this way, a new sheriff in town, and it was a woman who could tear your heart in two. And that's what she did, man. I used to see her in some of those LA clubs. I think, I can't even remember the names of some of them. They were so low down, but she never was anything less than great. She had this way she could look at people. It didn't scare them as much as it made them say, this is a serious musician. We need to listen to her equal to the talent she is sharing with us. And you know what? She's never ever changed from that. There was a show there in Beverly Hills. I'm pretty sure she was opening at the Beverly Theater. And that night she played a song called Crescent City, which had a lot of New Orleans in it. I'd been spending a lot of time in New Orleans. And I remember just in the middle of that song becoming so nostalgic and so sort of sick at heart, I burst into tears. And the person I was with looked at me and said, what the fuck is wrong with you? But Lucinda Williams can make you cry. She can make me cry when I listen to her records. Not out of sadness, but just the joy in the world that we're really and truly, all these human beating hearts in this together. I mean, isn't that what music is? I mean, we're all in this together. And we love this stuff so much. I mean, look at us here. We're celebrating a songwriter. Not a head of state, not anybody that runs General Motors. We are celebrating a songwriter because at the end of the day, that's what's really going to change our lives. And you really is. I believe that with all my heart. And so after the Rough Trade record, she got going some more, and things were really, really starting to come together in the 90s. And then we get to Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. And I think that was the one you could give to a stranger who had never heard of Lucinda Williams and blow their minds completely. I think that's the one that announced to the world that this is it. This is the one. This is somebody who is as great as anybody has ever been and is in it for the long haul to keeps being great. And as the 90s get rolling, we just watched her with all the love in our hearts, those of us who love her music and love her, as she made these records that, they were almost like letters from heaven or somewhere. There was nothing like them. There was no other writers writing like this. And to me, I've always loved her voice as much as her songs because it imparts this just realness and grit, but also this deep, deep beauty of what the human voice can do. And I feel it one of my luckiest moments to be on the planet when she is here. And there's so many awards and all these things, but like I said, man, I'm kind of a different type of writer. I can't remember any of them, but I know they're there. But I do remember a really interesting night. After I left my job at Warner Brothers, I was working with Neil Young, and he played Madison Square Garden, and I believe Lucinda was opening that show. But I do know she and I alone got stuck for a moment in a freight elevator in the bowels of Madison Square Garden. And you know, I'm not big about claustrophobia. I mean, I don't like being stuck. And I don't think she liked it any better than me. And we both looked at each other with these wide eyes of terror. And she goes, "Bill, we're not moving." I said, "I know." "What's happening?" I said, "I don't know." And she looked at me and said, "Are we going to be okay?" And I said, I lied. "Without a doubt." We're getting out, man. We're getting out of here. And just all these years kind of rushed together for me. That's why I'm so happy to be here and to remember them with y'all. And I'm going to leave you with one that really touched me as much as I've ever been touched in this business. When I was 15 in Texas, I fell in love with a singer named Rocky Erickson. He'd written a song with his band, The Spades, called "You're Gonna Miss Me." And then he started a band called the 13th Floor Elevators. That to me, you know, I would not be who I am without that band in 1966 coming into my life. I think I was headed for the pier. But that band got me, it made me think of the higher consciousness we all have within us. And if we try hard, maybe we can get in touch with it enough to see that life is also up here as well as down here. And that's what that band did for me in '66. And that song, "You're Gonna Miss Me," has played in my heart daily all these years. I hear it just behind me, in front of me, all over the place. And in 1990, I made a tribute record for Rocky Erickson. He's in a mental hospital and needed out. And we got him out, and his career started going. And then 30 years later, Rocky died. And I said, I'm going to make another tribute record about Rocky Erickson because I owe it. He gave me a life. He really did. And tribute records are hard to make these days, let me tell you. And the first thing that happens when you go to anybody to be on a tribute record, usually them or their management goes, "Well, who else is on it?" And I get that. You know, you have to watch out for the things you're associated with. But this tribute record to Rocky a couple of years ago, people weren't really getting on it. They did not really feel that Rocky being dead now, there was much else to do. And there was two people, and oddly enough, they're both in this room, who said yes. They did not ask me who was on it. They didn't ask me how much they were going to make. They didn't even ask me what label it was on. And one of those records, Billy Gibbons, is here. He said yes. But when Lucinda said yes, it was during the pandemic. And I think that her saying yes to me made me once again believe that, like the old elevator song said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Because it gave me something that wanted me to continue, not only to try to do my best, but help anybody else who's trying to do their best. And I think that's part of what Lucinda Williams has done with her music all these years. She has loved other musicians. She has been vocal about what she loves. And I'm not going to cry, but she gave me the hope that even in my 70s now, you never give up, man. You never give up. And her music has given me a backbone of steel to believe that and live that dream all these years. And Lucinda, man, I love you so much. And doggone it, man, I wish I said hello more on the drag back then in 1974. We all get to where we need to be, right? At the end of the day, we're all here and we're all doing something that we should be doing. And for Lucinda Williams is to keep making records and keep giving us hope that the world is a wonderful place for all of us. Thank you for letting me talk.